From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
Now at 5:30, suspect identified. What we are learning about the person police say is the one who killed 8 people before taking his own life. And coping with the grief, a resource that started as a way to help children deal with trauma, has now expanded its reach. Tom.
Topping our lineup, staying connected at work and school over Zoom can be exhausting. How some companies are getting employees to unplug and what experts say you can do for yourself. The pandemic brought on changes to our environment when people were forced to stay home. We're looking at whether there are some long-term benefits to that drop in pollution. Advocates say getting out the message about the need for vaccines is important, and religious leaders could play a big role to push to get these institutions more involved.
But first at 5:30, we continue to follow developments in the mass shooting that claimed the lives of 8 people last night at a FedEx facility near the airport. The suspected shooter has been identified by police as 19-year-old Brandon Scott Hull, a former employee of the facility. He was last employed there in 2020. Police say he took his own life after killing 8 and injuring 7 others. The victims have not been identified. And for those who survived this terrible tragedy, this is a traumatic experience that could have long-standing effects. Co-workers lost friends, families lost loved ones. The grieving process can be grueling and painful. There is an organization in town offering counseling and grief groups for children who have lost loved ones. WRTV's Mark Mullins spoke with one local organization whose aim is to help people cope and process that pain.
Yeah, that's right, Amanda. It's called Brooks Place, and it's actually been around for 22 years in our area. It started as a resource to help children who have lost a parent or a relative. Brooks Place today still focuses on children and their grief process, but it also provides resources and support to corporations and the people who work for them in times of need. I spoke with the executive director late this afternoon about last night's incident at FedEx and asked her for advice that we can all learn from.
When you heard about the news of this tragedy that we just experienced overnight here at FedEx, what was the first thing, what comes through your mind?
So heartbroken for the families, for everybody, for the employees that were there, that witnessed it, the employees that were involved, that know these individuals that died in this tragic accident. For me, it always goes back to the families and thinking about the loved ones who are left behind to deal with this trauma. Many times there are children who are involved in this. And as we say at Brooks Place, if you're old enough to love, you're old enough to grieve. So thinking about how we as an organization and as a community can really embrace and provide support for these children and these families as they are dealing with this very difficult loss.
And let's talk a little bit about that. What are the first steps here? You know, how can those employees and those managers that work there help each other out now in these early stages?
Absolutely. There are several things that employers and employees, coworkers can do. One is to provide individual support for those coworkers and for family members that lost a loved one in that horrific event. And part of it is by allowing those individuals to talk openly about the loss, to speak the name of the loved one, to share memories, to share stories, and to provide an opportunity for them to communicate and to share to the extent that they want to. Providing team support, running errands for them, doing work tasks for them that might make it easier for them, or as a company getting together and offering to, for instance, pay for lawn care for 3 or 6 months for that family, or delivery of food services or other support that they might need. And to know that whatever you offer, it's okay if that person turns it down at that time. Just offer what you're comfortable offering in ways of support. And it's okay if that's not at the right time for them.
Sometimes those simple things go a long way.
Absolutely.
Many people overlook the need and the importance of grieving, and they store away the grief. Why is it so important to really just be in the moment when you are going through it? Be in the moment when it's here.
Everybody grieves very differently. At Brooks Place, we talk about grief, and it comes in waves and bursts, particularly for children who grieve very differently than adults. And so giving that person the opportunity to grieve in a way, in a space that's good for them, to know that we are with them where they're grieving, both physically and emotionally, and not to expect somebody to be at a certain stage or a certain part of their grief, because it's very individualized. And someone can be really having a good day, and there can be anything that might trigger a grief burst. It could be a song, it could be a memory, it could be passing something on a road. So giving people really the space to let them know that they're not alone and you're there for them when they need the help, but to give them that opportunity to do it at the time and place for them.
Though Brooks Place focuses on children, the organization does provide support for companies that want to educate their employees on how to best support their coworkers or employees. For more information on that and to see a list of resources, just log on to brooksplace.org.
Much of central Indiana making it into the 60s this afternoon. Exceptions, though, Indianapolis, Columbus right now at 59 degrees. Believe it or not, this is kind of a warm pocket. We've got some cool air off to the east, another shot of some chilly air off to the west, and that will be sliding our way. There's also some rain associated with that. We won't see a whole lot in the way of wet weather, and we won't see any of that this evening. Just increasing clouds, temperature down to around 50 degrees here for us at 11 o'clock. Still could have some patchy frost in areas like Kokomo, with the temperature dropping down to 34, 37 for you in Fishers, but 41 in the city. We've got some colder mornings than this, though, in the 7-day forecast. More on that in a few minutes. Tom?
Even with vaccines, the pandemic is by no means under control just yet. According to Johns Hopkins, nearly half of all states had at least a 10% increase in positive cases yesterday. Hospitalizations are also up in 38 states, according to Washington Post analysis of government data, about 5 to 8% higher, according to the CDC. The age range of those patients has also dropped, and they are generally less sick. Average daily deaths have also increased for a third day in a row to over 700 a day. Today, the White House announced it's giving another $1.7 billion to the CDC and states to combat emerging threats, including variants. The number of Americans getting COVID vaccines is steadily climbing. 30% of adults are now fully vaccinated, and nearly half have gotten at least one dose, according to the CDC. But Dr. Anthony Fauci says we may need to get to 85% to reach herd immunity. Beginning Monday, President Biden wants adults of all ages to be eligible for the shots. And with variants in the mix, the race is on to employ as many advocates for vaccines as possible.
And so we've heard from small employers that a lot of them want to take up the mantle of being leaders in their communities and talk about why vaccinations are important to getting our economy back on track.
Small business owners stand to gain a lot in the U.S. vaccination efforts. Vaccinating about 3 million people a day is expected to create more than 2 million jobs over the summer. That's according to the Penn-Wharton budget model. The organization Public-Private Strategies is mobilizing those owners through a coalition called Reimagine Main Street. Its goal is to help communities of color rebound and build back better. They encourage owners to educate themselves and get vaccinated, and to get a plan together for their employees. That includes giving them information and tools, including paid time off to get vaccinated or recover from any side effects, and then become ambassadors in their community. Small business owners are typically regarded as highly trustworthy individuals.
So we think they're a really important messenger because they're very locally based. People know their small business owner, and particularly in communities of color, they play an outside leadership role in educating their employees and community about actions they should take. So we think this is a natural place for them to then step up and show leadership on vaccines.
More than 400 small businesses have pledged to help in local vaccine efforts, including working with local agencies to support vaccine distribution or educational events. Next in our lineup, we're taking a deeper look into why Zoom meetings can feel so exhausting and tips on how to curb some of that fatigue. Zoom has allowed us to stay connected at work and school and with family and friends throughout the pandemic. But after several meetings a day, you may start to feel exhausted. Some people even feel obligated to hop on a meeting or check their email when they're off work simply because they're home. LinkedIn gave its employees all of last week off to try and eliminate that and allow people to recharge. The company's chief people officer says there's been a noticeable difference since employees got back on Monday.
didn't feel that during the week that they were compelled to check their email every hour to see what they may be missing. And so, we're definitely hearing positivity stories, people coming back feeling refreshed and ready to go.
Another challenge impacting employees working from home is not having time to mentally prepare for the day on the drive in. Meetings are also all on the computer, and that can be draining. Throughout the pandemic, Stanford University has been studying Zoom fatigue. Their latest research out this week looks at why it happens and who it affects the most. The study shows there are 4 main factors that make Zoom tiring: mirror anxiety from seeing yourself on camera, feeling physically trapped, hypergaze from a grid of staring faces, and cognitive exhaustion from interpreting nonverbal cues. Data from more than 10,000 people shows women experience a 14% higher rate of Zoom fatigue than men. It could be because women tend to have longer meetings on Zoom and a shorter time between them. Women also tend to give out more nonverbal cues than men during meetings, like smiling and nodding. Although Zoom meetings are unavoidable right now, some companies are trying to curb that fatigue. Citigroup, for example, now has Zoom-free Fridays. LinkedIn says it too has some other initiatives to help employees unplug.
We've also really asked our employees to take advantage of things like out-of-office messages, to just be really clear and set expectations that, hey, maybe between 8 a.m. and 9:30, you're not going to be able to respond to an email right away. That might be time that you need to help your child with distance learning, or it just might be time that you need for yourself to go out for a walk.
There are some things you can do every day to try and reduce Zoom fatigue. Stanford researchers suggest making your Zoom window smaller so the eye contact isn't as intense. Also, try hiding the view of yourself so you're not watching every move and face you make. If you're on a longer meeting, turn your camera off if possible and walk around the room while you listen. We saw a drop in pollution when the pandemic hit, but was it enough to have any lasting impacts? That's still to come in our lineup. You don't need us to tell you that people miss being connected during the pandemic. Things like seeing each other or giving a hug. Elizabeth Ruiz shows us why science backs up what you're feeling and how you can recreate the changes in your body that happen when you touch, even while staying socially distant.
Physical touch. It's one of the 5 basic senses, and it's a part of our everyday lives.
Being social and meeting other people is, I think, the essence of being human. If that's taken away, it would be strange if we were not affected by it.
Dr. Helena Vosling has spent years researching the human touch system. She says touch impacts how people feel and act. So when the pandemic takes away our ability to physically interact with each other, there's a part of us that feels empty.
Touch is not just, intense hugging or massages. It's the everyday touch with just a hand on the shoulder or a pat on the back, or just when you emphasize what you want to say to someone, maybe you hold their lower arm or something, and just shaking hands, that important ritual that we have just to say hello and acknowledge people. And now that we don't have that anymore, it's sort of like a part of our ways of communication is actually lost.
Helena says touching somebody can help them feel included, connected, and seen, but it can also calm them down.
So touch from people to people would lower your blood pressure. It will lower your pulse, your heartbeat, and it would also lower the levels of your stress hormones within your system.
People who have been isolated for more than a year are likely suffering from loneliness, depression, and anxiety. However, Helena says there are ways to help yourself if you're missing physical touch from other humans. For example, if you have a furry friend, spend some extra time cuddling them, or consider offering your body some warmth.
Lowering yourself into a warm bath or having a shower, that's also a tactile experience. And that activates this part of the nervous system that's an emotional touch system.
If you do have the opportunity to see somebody in person, Helena says you can elevate your other senses by being fully present with them.
Maybe we should be aware that it's very important when we see each other, even if it's a certain distance, that we should meet eyesight, and that we should be better at eye contact. To really have people feel that they're actually being seen. And we could use our hearing, for example, all these smartphones that almost everyone has. Maybe we should actually use them for what they were intended to begin with.
I'm Elizabeth Ruiz reporting.
Well, this weekend, not going to be bad to get out there for some physical activity. Saturday, we do have a 20% chance of a shower. 58 degrees will be the high there. Slightly warmer on Sunday. Just a spotty shower in the forecast. Here's a look at TrueCast tomorrow morning. Best chance for those isolated showers near and south of Interstate 70. But even if you see it, it's not going to last very long. Temperatures, they will get to around the 60-degree mark for that afternoon high. That's after starting off at 37 degrees for you. And then on Sunday, we'll see a mix of sun and clouds out there. Temperatures, again, will top off around 60 for that high. The average high is 63 degrees. We will get there on Monday, but it is a brief time at average. 65 Monday afternoon, then we slide back to 58 on Tuesday. Some rain showers. May see a few snowflakes mix in here as we've got temperatures dropping around the freezing mark by Wednesday and Thursday morning. Wednesday's high just 49. Tom?
Thursday is Earth Day, the second one since the pandemic began. During the past year of lockdowns and working from home, there have been a lot of changes to our environment that have made our air and water healthier. Maya Rodriguez turned to experts to find out if your family will be safer long term.
Clear skies, cleaner air, and even the simple sounds of more birds chirping. All hallmarks of the first year of COVID-19, when fewer people were out and about.
Nature is very resilient, and nature is waiting in that space to blossom.
Rachel Cletus with the Union of Concerned Scientists says the past year taught us a lot about our environment and the possibilities to improve it.
What became very clear is that human beings have an outsized footprint on our planet.
Among the biggest early changes, air quality, thanks to industries operating at lower outputs and fewer vehicles on the road.
As we saw pretty drastic decreases in certain air pollutants, especially air pollutants that were caused by traffic and transportation.
But Gage Kerr, an air pollution expert with George Washington University, says that's starting to change again, and not for the better.
The pollution levels have more or less rebounded back to pre-pandemic levels.
One change that scientists say may have a longer lasting impact: people's appreciation for the outdoors and green spaces like parks.
I think the pandemic's taught us a lot of things, and one of them might be the ability to have green spaces for exercise, to get out of our houses when we're cooped up.
Another impact from COVID, the health of the world's oceans. When the lockdowns happened, many seafood restaurants closed, and all over the globe, the demand for seafood plummeted.
Because of that, some marine life began to emerge in the ocean, people spotting it in places where it wasn't usually seen. But those gains came with a cost.
Oxfam, for example, was looking at hunger and poverty around the world and just sounding the alarm that many, many people were being driven into desperate situations.
Which is why scientists and researchers are now studying the past COVID year to figure out how to make some of these environmental improvements last while not harming how people make a living.
The question is, can we make the kinds of policies and investments that will allow us to grab the best of what we saw in this last year and leave behind the parts that were inequitable and harsh?
This COVID-19 natural experiment is going to keep scientists busy for months and maybe even years,
in the hopes that future Earth days are a bit brighter. I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Still ahead in our lineup, the impact advocates say religious communities could have on vaccination rates. One of the biggest challenges in getting people vaccinated is a combination of misinformation and hesitancy. Many who are holding off on getting vaccinated are people who identify as white evangelical Protestants. According to a Pew Research poll, 45% of white evangelicals have said they would definitely not get the COVID vaccine. About 17% of all adults in the U.S. identify as white evangelicals. They're also more likely than other religious groups to believe in certain conspiracy theories. That's according to a study by the Conservative American Enterprise Institute.
There is a tendency within white Christian nationalism to want to believe these kinds of conspiracies because I think it reinforces this idea of an us versus them. The problem is the people who are feeding that fear have an incentive to keep stoking that fear because people keep clicking and people keep listening.
Conspiracies believed by one group can be enough to affect others, especially when it involves public health. It's not uncommon for leaders of evangelical churches to discourage their parishioners from getting vaccinated.
Not only do I not encourage, I discourage. I don't know anybody in my church, black, brown, El Salvadorian, Honduran, Mexican, who had the virus.
That's Pastor Tony Spell. His parents, however, did test positive for coronavirus. Yet many leaders like him maintain their anti-vaccine stance, claiming the virus is made up and is a ploy to get parishioners to not go to church. On the other hand, there are church leaders out there encouraging parishioners to get the vaccine. Reverend Franklin Graham leads the Billy Graham Evangelical Association. He has been open about his vaccination status and has shared why it's important to get vaccinated, especially in the church community. Meanwhile, the Ad Council is partnering with several groups, including the National Association of Evangelicals. Their goal is to educate the Christian community about vaccines. The project, Christians and the Vaccine, aims to give pastors and church leaders the tools to address spiritual concerns about the shot.
I'm Chris Conti here in Minneapolis, where they are working to preserve pieces of plywood that has become a pivotal part of the civil unrest movement. On Monday, we'll show you the efforts to get these murals a permanent home.